This structure is a memorial to all the men and women who fought in the wars from the New South Wales country town of Bathurst and the surrounding areas. It's a nice little structure. It has a column on each corner and then a space pierced by an arch on each side, with a statue that's mostly obscured from this angle of, my guess is, a World War I digger, as the soldiers in the First World War from Australia were called. So at this stage I'm just trying to work out the proportions. I think I've made it just slightly too wide from column to column, looking at this now. Fortunately, there's still a fair bit more to add both above and below, which I think does make the width look not so obvious. So at this point I'm really just trying to get an outline. Sorry, my head kept bumping the camera. I'm really trying to get an outline and just work out the basic shapes. The fact that this entablature that runs around the top of the columns actually comes out at an angle to the four sides just is a little complicating factor and does require more careful observation to get the angles right, because they don't follow the same perspective angles as any of the four sides do. And of course there's a certain distortion on the arches because of the perspective angle. While I may have got the left hand side of the memorial a little too wide, I suspect I got the right side just a little bit too narrow. So I would have liked to have been able to shave off the extra from the left and pop it onto the right, and then I think probably would have been right. Probably the overall width is okay, just not quite as I've put it. And so I'm starting to put some hatching in place as well, just to help me start to get a feel for the 3 dimensions of this. And I'm just laying in place a bit of an outline for these rose bushes that are in the very front. And there's a fair bit of foliage in this scene, both in front of, alongside, and behind the memorial. There, I just noticed that I'd bumped it. And the trees and the foliage behind are important because, particularly on the left hand side, they really help to push out the war memorial through negative space, through the dark shadows that will come up hard against the outline of the stonework. So then I've got this. Now you'll see my first line wasn't great, but I think it improved on the right hand side. Now there's little 4 rampant lions holding shields, which is a nod to the British Empire, I'm sure. They're not my best little figures, but in a sense we just want them to look as if they could be something. And so it's better that we make them too small and too underwhelming than have something too large. Yes, look, sorry about that. There's about 8 minutes that I missed where I really was just doing the hatching. You'll see that most of my hatching is actually vertical hatching down the outsides of the structure, but on the inside and on the insides of the arches, I've used horizontal hatching lines to create a contrast. You'll see the part of the statue there that I've put in place, but I make the hatching behind it more dark. That will make that statue not stand out quite so much. So at this point I'm really looking to see where the lines are for hatching. And now I come to the tree behind, and I'm really keen to put in some dark shadows that come right to the edge of the memorial, and I exaggerate the extent of the dark shadows. I both make them a bit darker, and I also create more of them to basically outline whatever part of the architecture I think will be served best by having the shadow coming up against it. And I do the same up the top here as well. This is where particularly where we're able to take license with our reference when it comes to the background to position the reference and to use values that accentuate the main subject in the best way possible. And so now the memorial itself is really popping forward a lot more through the effect of the darker shadows behind it. Now, as many country New South Wales parks have, there are these enormous trees that were planted 100, 150 years ago. And now I've got the stonework that forms the base, and this also has these four buttresses coming out on the corners, and there's rather large stonework that makes these up. I'm not trying to copy what's there particularly. I'm just trying to create something that creates the same effect, and I'm just putting the shadows that are being cast by the sun as well as the shade. And down the side there's some sort of gate here, doorway to allow access under the memorial. It's probably where the gardeners keep all their park maintenance equipment. And so now just working again at these roses in front, trying to be really very gestural. I really am more interested in just some lines that will be a contrast to the stonework and to the hatching. It's often about creating variety in our lines rather than actually outlining anything in particular. And I managed to also cut out the last couple of minutes of drawing, and you'll see I decided just to put that ornamental plum tree in because it also helped to define that corner and just push that corner forward a bit. And I didn't feel the need to add the building behind. I thought it actually worked quite well, just like this. But I did put a couple of figures that were in the reference in the drawing to help give a sense of scale. So look, this is one of my longer drawings in this series. It took me probably just under an hour to draw, but there was a lot of just hatching and line work with the trees rather than the actual structure itself taking too much time. And if you want to draw this yourself, of course, this drawing is available, this reference photo, sorry, is available on my YouTube channel community page. So you can have a look and print off a copy and draw it. G'day, my name's Stephen Travers. Look, I hope this was helpful and interesting, and why not have a go drawing it? But whatever you're drawing, have fun. I'll see you next time. Bye.